Chain of responsibility. Chain of responsibility is a type of behavioral design pattern. If a method is not able to solve the problem, then the responsibility to qualify is handed over to the next level of object in the hierarchy. Let's take an example of a logger function where we have three different types of logs like info, debug, and error. So when we use console.info, it will be handled by info object. For debug, it will be handled in debug object. And if any error is thrown, info and debug passes it to the next level and error object takes the responsibility to print the error or push it to any new notification service. Let's jump into code and check how to implement it in Java. We will create an interface chain and have abstract method setNext which takes input any object which implements chain interface. Next, we will have an abstract method process to process the required business logic. We will try to handle various dimensions using chain of responsibility pattern. We will create a dimension class and have our coordinate variable. We will override the constructor and for single dimension, we will assign x to this dot coordinate and create a new integer array with x. And similarly for two dimension, we will take input x and y and create a new integer array with x and y. And for three-dimension array, we'll assign x, y, and z to this dot coordinate. We will create one-dimension class and implement chain interface. And have a private variable next in chain to trigger the next object. And in setNext method, we will assign the chain implementation to next in chain variable. In process method, we will check the coordinate length. If equals to 1, oops, we have missed get coordinate function to retrieve coordinate value from dimension object. Return this dot coordinate. Here we will process our one-dimension business logic. For simplicity, let's print one-dimension coordinate and print out the coordinate using array.toString request.getCoordinate. If it is more than one dimension, then next in chain.process, and that can be handled by two-dimension object. Like one-dimension class, we will create two-dimension class, and in if statement, we will check for length equals to Similarly, in 3-dimension class, length will be 3, else we can throw exception that not supported. I will keep it commented. Or we can have a generic n dimension to handle any dimension apart from these 3 dimensions. Edit the print statement, 3-dimension coordinate and 2-dimension coordinate. Now let's create a client class. And create a 1-dimension object and assign it to chain C1. Second dimension to chain C2 and third dimension to chain C3. So if C1 is not able to handle, it should be handed to C2, and if not C2, then C3, that is 3-dimension array. Let's check C1.process single element integer 5. We can see 1-dimension coordinate is printed with 5. Let's check for other 2-dimension. 5 and 7 for 2-dimension and 15, 98 and 77 for 3-dimension array. But we will pass the value to C1 to handle. So C1 checks the length, and for 1-dimension the length is 1, so it prints 1-dimension with 5. Next, for 5 and 7, C1 checks the length and it's not 1, so it calls for next in chain to process it. And in C1 set next, we have assigned it to C2, that is 2-dimension. So C2 process is called and checks if length is equals to 2 and prints 2-dimension coordinate 5 and 7. Similarly, for 15, 98 and 77, it fails in C1 and passes it to C2. It again fails in C2 and search for next in chain, which is C3, and prints 3-dimension 8. That's all for this tutorial. See you again in next design pattern tutorial. Hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to CodeSpace for upcoming tutorials.